Feeling nostalgic today, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Boss DS1 Distortion. Does it still hold up? That's the big question. So, bunch of boutique distortions, bunch of cool overdrives that you can get these days. There's so many out there. But this one still seems to be like my first pedal safe zone for loads of people when they're buying their first effects pedal. If they want distortion, if they've got a clean amp that they want to sound gained up and distorted. You wonder why that is, because it's up for debate whether this thing is actually still any good. I think Steve Vai, good guitarist, pretty damn good, described this as being hairy. That's almost derogatory. It's like a hairy distortion. So there's a bunch of different ways to use it, I think, and there is a bunch of different applications. You can put this through a ton of different amplifiers for a ton of different sounds. Obviously using it with different guitars is going to change the way that a tone is shaped as well. But I just wanted to go through sort of all the things that make this thing cool, because I've got a special place in my heart for DS1. It's a nice, cheap, affordable pedal. We sell lots of them here in the shop. It was my first ever pedal, and I loved mine when I first had it. I brought it everywhere with me. I think I ended up snapping the distortion dial off. I used to have to get in there with my fingers right into the pot there, because I just used it and used it and used it, and I loved it. Able to turn the distortion on and off, and a clean amp was a nice thing to be able to do when playing songs for the first time, for example. So yeah, nostalgia, I'm big into it. Let's put it through its paces. I'm going to run it for a bunch of different stuff today, just to give you guys an idea of how you can use it and how it can sound, and answer that question: does it still hold up today? So, verdict for the digital amplifier. I would say that the sound of the digital amp for a rhythm tone, it's got good enough rhythm tones on already. You're not really needing that to boost it. The overdrive maybe worked a little bit, made the low end come out a little bit more, but wasn't really digging it, to be honest. However, the lead sound was awesome. I was really impressed by how this thing made a lead guitar sound. It gave it just the right amount of top boost to make it sound really nice and make the tone sort of more playable, easy to play, which is what you want out of an overdrive. This would be the most ideal thing to have for a solo boost, I think, especially if you're using a digital amp. Be interested to hear how that fares on a tube amp with a couple of other effects stacked up next to it, which we can do next. Obviously this is going to change the sound of anything you put it next to or before of, which is cool. So yeah, rhythm tone, probably not. Give it a bit of a miss for the Blackstar amp there. Overdriven sound, it was okay. Maybe give it sort of like a squiggly line as opposed to a cross. But yeah, the lead sound, really liked it on the Blackstar 8020. Let's go on to the next amplifier. So that was a Fender Blues Junior 4. That's obviously got a 12-inch speaker. It's not going DI or anything like that, it's being mic'd up. It's got a full tube section, power tube, and a preamp tube as well. So the gain staging is totally different, and it reacts with the pedal in a really cool way. It's kind of different. I've gone for a slightly overdriven sound, and then a top boosted kind of lead sound with the distortion turned all the way up on the pedal. You can kind of mess around as much as you want and get some really interesting sounds out of it. Nothing too crazy on the gain front, because the amp doesn't really go too gainy. It's just something that overdrives really nicely. Fender amps are known for taking pedals really well, and I thought I got a pretty okay sound out of the DS1 with a Fender Blues Junior. Are there better pedals out there for it? Yeah, probably, but I can make do with the DS1. If I was given a rock gig and was told that's your pedal, that's what you've got, I wouldn't be too worried now. On to the next amp. So that was a Blackstar HD5 combo. It's a very different gain structure in that amp again. The clean sound sounded totally different on the Blackstar to the Fender, lending itself for sort of like if you're using a rhythm tone, for it to sound very different indeed if it's just the clean and the distortion going on top of the clean channel there. What I found with the drive channel was it was kind of almost overloaded. It didn't suit it conventionally, but I got quite a gnarly kind of like really dirty rhythm sound from it that brought out all the treble in the strings. Using that tone dial as a top boost I think is the best option with this pedal if you've got a lot of gain going on. You can bring out sort of like the glassiness of that P90 I was using, certainly with a little twist of the tone dial there. So it's got loads of little uses, which is cool. I was expecting it to sound, you know, pretty bad on a lot of things. I'm used to, you know, a lot nicer distortion sections, and a lot of the time if you've got a decent sounding distortion amp you don't really want to boost it with anything that's kind of like on the cheaper end of stuff, because it can lead to it sounding, you know, quite strange, you know, a little bit clipped. In this case, it was a little bit clipped, I think, just the overall gain itself, but it kind of lended itself to this quite aggressive sounding kind of like modern tone that I was quite a big fan of. The overdrive tone I used for the tapping lead, for example, was fairly subdued to begin with, and then had a really nice shimmery top boost when I turned the DS1, and that was with the DS1 with its tone dial around about the 3 o'clock mark, and the distortion up just a touch, and the level about in the middle. So yeah, using it more as kind of like a nice top boost, I think, is beginning to show itself a little bit more as we explore the good old faithful DS1 in this video. So this is 3 of about a million things that you can do with a Boss DS1 Distortion. There's tons of different combinations, guitars, amps. Putting it in front of or before other pedals is going to make it sound different as well. I think it can be used really effectively as a solo boost, is what I found from this little experiment today. Every time I've applied it sort of like nice and subtly to a lead tone, it's kind of shied in that respect. You can see why Steve Vai's had one on his pedal board for such a long time, because it really brings out a nice shimmer to the tone, as opposed to using it as just a straight rhythm sound on top of a clean tone. Didn't really work too well, a little bit, but it's just a little bit honky. The mid-range wasn't quite right, the tone dial wasn't doing what I wanted it to, and as soon as I started moving the distortion too much, it became, you know, perhaps a little bit oversaturated, and, you know, peaky, and just a little bit too sort of like woofy and gainy, as opposed to crisp and clear. So yeah, it's worth experimenting with one. If you've got an old one lying around, try putting it in your chain, see if you can add some, like, a little bit of oomph to your solos, a little bit of that nice glassiness that tone dial top boost can bring. I think that's a really nice way of using this pedal. So in many ways it does still hold up. Maybe not in the conventional sense as most distortion pedals do. You get some distortion pedals that work like a preamp. You can put them in front of a clean amp and it transforms your amp into this Syrian monster. That's not what this is for. This is for tone shaping, as far as I can see. It's like an overdrive, but not quite. I wouldn't necessarily use it to tighten up the low end of an amplifier, but I'd use it to add that nice shimmer to a lead tone. Hope you guys enjoyed watching the video today and joining me on this little quest for tone with our friend the Boss DS1 Distortion. There he is, we'll pick him up. I'll give him one last little show in the video. There he is, awesome. So yeah, thought it was really fun messing around with this today. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. If you've got any questions, any feedback, or anything you think we might have left out, please do let us know in the comments below. And if you like the content that you see on the channel, please consider subscribing to us. And if you like the video today, hit that like button. Thanks very much, guys, and see you next time.